Hello everyone, Minute Plus Meditation here. It's Monday, January the 20th. We're in the second week of Ordinary Time. And it is also the feast of Saints Sebastian and Fabian. Sebastian is a patron saint of athletes. He was an imperial guard close to the emperor. And he vigorously defended his faith. That's why they clubbed him to death. You see him with arrows through him in pictures or photos. That's because they used him as archer practice and he survived that. But then he chastised the emperor for persecuting the Christians and they clubbed him to death. So Saint Sebastian is one incredible saint. We continue with the Epistle to the Hebrews. We're in chapter 5 now. He is able to deal gently with the ignorant and wayward, since he himself is subject to weakness, and because of this he must offer sacrifice for his own sins as well as for those of the people. And one does not presume to take this honor, but takes it only when called by God, just as Aaron was. So also Christ did not glorify himself in becoming a high priest, but was appointed by the one who said to him, "You are my son, today I have begotten you." As he says also in another place, "You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek." So we see in this description of the author, St. Paul. I think it's St. Paul from everything I've heard, but a lot of people dispute that. But I'm not a scripture scholar, but at the same time, good scripture scholars I've read still think it's St. Paul. So St. Paul says he's basically describing to us the high priest and the sacrifice that he offered for the sins of the people, and he himself was subject, because he's a human person, he was subject to weakness like everybody else. We tend to think Jesus is not somehow aware of our weaknesses because he is Jesus, right? He's the Son of God. He is without sin. And this is really incorrect. This is not correct. This is not appropriate, but it's not, that's not really the word. It's not correct. Jesus does understand our weaknesses. Remember, even though he was without sin, he took all sin upon himself. He understood what sin does. And that's really exemplified on the cross when he says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" The full force of sin comes down on him. And although he commits no sin, he still sees the ugliness. He sees the darkness, the horribleness of sin. So he does understand our weakness. And it goes on to say, in the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverent submission. So Christ shows us by his submission, by his rejecting all sin, that he does understand. It's not as if he's indifferent to it, right? Otherwise, he can't be tempted. Think about that. He's tempted by the devil. This is not a fake thing. He rejects it, but he is tempted. And we must understand, so he does understand our weakness. So go to Jesus, with full confidence that he understands your weakness. Even though he's never given into sin, he understands what it does to us, fully, totally. That's why, we're so blessed as Catholics to have the sacrament of reconciliation or confession. To the Gospel, Mark chapter 2. Why do John's disciples and his disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast? Jesus gives them an answer that must have really been like a thunderbolt. He says, the wedding guests cannot fast while the bridegroom is with them, can they? Well, of course not. But who's the bridegroom? Well, Jesus is the bridegroom here. They know what he's saying, and yet they don't fully comprehend it because something prevents them. Otherwise, they would have arrested him there on the spot. Are you claiming you're the Messiah? But they don't ask him that, right? So their minds are clouded because of because of their arrogance. I'm extrapolating or presuming here based on what I read, because he's saying, I'm the Messiah. The bridegroom is with them. Well, who's the bridegroom in the scriptures? It's God. God is the bridegroom. Clear, it's very clear. And he says, so I'm with them. They can't fast, but I will be taken from them. He's not saying this explicitly, I will be crucified, I will die, and then they will fast. And in fact, the apostles did engage in fasting. St. James, I believe, was known as a man, a great asceticism, great sacrifice, great fasting. but they all fasted, every single one of them. And in fact, even while they're living with Jesus, they're living a life of great poverty. Don't kid yourself. Remember that when they were going through the grain fields and they were plucking the heads of grain just to feed themselves, they were hungry. They had only the clothes on their backs. So they were living a life of great sacrifice. So you and I need to ask ourselves, what am I doing am I living any sacrificial way as following Jesus? Do I sacrifice my financial blessings? Do I sacrifice my stomach? Do I sacrifice my eyes? SOS, shiny object syndrome. Am I trying to cut down on my screen time? What do I do to show my willingness to sacrifice for Jesus, who sacrificed everything for me? He is the bridegroom. God bless you.